Welcome back to the ICF series on the Code of Ethics. And we are in section 2, responsibility to practice and performance, wrapping up this section with 17, 18, and 19. And I have George Nuthu with me today to cover this section. He's part of the code review team, and he is coming to us from Kenya. George, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's so good to be here with you today, Brighton.
Well, thank you, George. So let's jump right in to number 17, which is about personal limitations and circumstances. So what does a coach need to be thinking about here?
Okay, when it comes to this particular standard 17, it is really talking about anything that interferes or impairs or limits a coach from performing at his highest level when dealing with a client. And at times, you could have a personal thing that is going on. Maybe you're coaching this client and they say something that triggers a certain thing. Maybe it's violence. Maybe they're talking about violence and that triggers a memory of a traumatic event you may have experienced. And that kind of makes you get lost in yourself. You know, that's a time you can actually call a timeout and ask to be excused from that session for that day. And even after you do that, you can seek professional help to help you deal with that, So that is allowed. This is what this particular standard 17 is talking about.
So thank you, George. Of course, you're talking about coaching supervision there when you're looking for that guidance. So let's go on to number 18, and this is about conflicts of interest. What do coaches need to be watching out for here?
This standard 18 talks about conflict of interest, and conflict of interest has been defined in the Code of Ethics as a situation in which an ICF professional is involved in multiple interests where serving one interest could work against or be in conflict with another. So here's where a coach finds themselves, they're torn in between two interests. And this happens a lot in what we call the executive coaching, where you are coaching somebody who has been sponsored. And the sponsor, maybe because of the financial gain to you, may have an interest in you coaching this person. And at times, if you're not careful, you can be torn in between wondering whose interests are you trying to maintain. So at this time, you just really have to be very careful because the client's interest is paramount, not your financial gain in such a situation. So you really need to be very careful when certain interests that come in between you performing as a coach.
Thank you for going into that. And I think going to the interpretive statements is great here because I'm sure there's some wonderful information in there with examples. And those interpretive statements continue to grow, and that's a living document. So let's go on to the final standard of this section, which is about ICF member information. So number 19, what should coaches be looking for here?
What coaches need to be thinking about on this one is being very careful to exchange private information of coaches, of ICF members and ICF staff. We know many of us have got our information in our websites, in our LinkedIn, and that's out in the public, but there's certain information that is private that we may have because we are colleagues with each other or we work closely with ICF staff. That information, we have to be very careful in the way we exchange it. Before we exchange it, we need to seek permission from the person holding that information, the holder of that data. We need to, or the owner of that data. We can't just exchange it because somebody else has asked us. Whatever is in the public domain, somebody can get, but that which is private, we need to be very careful the way we exchange it. And even for further information, you can just review the ICF policy on this information sharing. So you can check on the website and check on the policy relating to this issue.
Yes, I think you're referring to the privacy policy that you can find on the ICF website, which goes into a lot of detail. And the other thing I want to mention is that this code of ethics does apply to coaches, their staff, and also the ICF staff who might have more information than coaches have. So they need to be abiding by this too. But that wraps up this section. So the next section up is the responsibility to professionalism, section 3, and we've got more videos coming up on that. You can click up here to see the next section. Thank you, George, and thank you to the coaches for watching.